This class lecture is for the Cultural Anthropology class at Lassen Community College. It's by Colleen Baker, and the topic is expressive culture, including music, dance, and body art. The functions of expression and art are to share cultural ideas with one another, and oftentimes it's for social integration so that we learn how to act within a culture. It's to share our values and to share our religious beliefs. It'll come in different forms. You might hear poetry, storytelling, there might be joking or some type of humor being shared. It might be through visual arts like the paintings, pottery, body art, so scarification or tattooing, as well as music and dance. As you can see over here on the two pictures, the oldest cave painting that we have is of a bull, and it's about 40,000 years ago, and this is found in Indonesia. Doesn't mean that it's the oldest one ever, just the oldest one that's found so far. And the other one that we have found is a musical instrument, and it's a flute made out of a bone. It was approximately 35,000 years ago, and that was found in Germany. When it comes to art, it's the intentional alteration of physical material, sounds, and movements. And in the Western world, we might see this as self-expression, and it might be something you could create music or art to reinforce cultural values, or you can also create music and art to challenge the current political or cultural values. But in other areas of the world, art might be something that's very stylized, it's very intentional, and there's really no room for self-expression. The other thing that is about art is it's in the eye of the beholder. So some people think that something is beautiful and exceptionally valuable, and somebody else might think that that is not worthwhile at all and might sell it at a yard sale for $2 or might throw it away in the trash. Please take a few minutes and think about what type of expressive culture and art do you appreciate the most? Do you appreciate music? Perhaps you're a musician yourself. Paintings, architecture, dance? Do you appreciate storytelling or poetry? And think about what do you think has the highest value, and then what type of expressive culture and art do you least appreciate or perhaps just don't understand very much? Do you think art that's created by other animals is actually considered expressive art, like it would be if a human created it? So for example, on the left you see a chimpanzee that is creating some art, and on the right you see an elephant who is creating art. So are those actually artistic representations just the same as humans, or are they different, and why? So verbal arts tell about human history, and of course before the written language, the only way that we had record of what happened in the past was through verbal arts, and usually these were tellings about our ancestors, tellings about the gods, telling about our futures. And today we would also use things like movies or even television shows as storytelling. Poetry is a verbal art, and you guys might remember Chaucer, who wrote the Canterbury Tales, and these often have a moral to them, or maybe it has a repetitive notion to them. And finally, joking might give us some ways to interact in social situations, and we would even use comedies. So like say the comedy clubs would be a form of verbal arts in today's world. Visual arts, of course, are part of human culture, and we might just think of things like paintings or tattoos, but it covers a whole gamut of things such as sculpture, weaving, basketry, architecture, design elements within the architecture, and then there's also body art, and it can go as simple as hairstyles as a form of body art, but also it goes from scarification and tattoos. One thing that you guys should do is look up ancient forms of tattooing. It's actually pretty brutal when you see the different ways that people tattoo. Other things that can happen is you might have stretched earlobes or stretched lips, as well as elongated necks. So all of those type of things would be forms of body art. Some of them are made for religious reasons. Some of them might be made as a gain in status. It might also be as a rite of passage. The last type of expressive culture that anthropologists studies is the performance arts. And one of the things that they try and figure out is how does the music influence the culture? And that's a study of ethnomusicology. There's also the idea that music and dance can be secular. That means that it's non-religious in purpose, or oftentimes it does have a secular or a religious purpose to the music and dance. And it might be that the music and the dance are calling upon ancestors, or possibly calling upon gods to produce things like fertile crops, rain, or fertility within humans.